Okay guys, we're going to do some more solving linear equations in this video, but this video specifically focuses on what do you do if you are solving an equation that has fractions, okay? So I just want to kind of walk you through a couple problems. Let's start with number one. This is 6 equals m over 4 plus 2. Now here's the good news. When you only have one fraction in the problem, it's really not any extra work than what you've already been solving. So even though, yes, this is a fraction, and we do have to work fraction problems a little differently, it only applies if there's 2 or more fractions. So let's just quickly kind of warm your brain up and work through this first problem, and then I'll show you ones with 2 fractions and 3 fractions. Okay, we're wanting to solve for m by itself. We're doing the orders of operation backwards. We'll subtract 2. Okay, 6 take away 2 is 4. Okay. Okay, so we have the fraction m over 4 equals 4. Now, y'all, it's very tempting to try to cancel here. You see the same number and you think, ooh, this would be great just to cancel this out and make it a 1. But think about what you're doing. You're saying some number m, when you divide it into 4 parts, you have 4 per part, 4 in each part. So it could not be 1. It just doesn't work that way. You need to do the opposite operation when you get to here. So we're going to multiply both sides by 4. Okay, now that it's on the same side of the equal sign, the 4 in the numerator can cancel. Bringing this over here, 4 times 4 is 16. So in this problem, m equals 16. Okay, take a look at number 2. So this one's different because this one has 2 fractions. You could work this problem by keeping them as fractions, but I'm going to show you a trick that eliminates all the fractions, and then you can just solve it using whole numbers. So here we go. I want you to really pay attention. We are going to multiply this entire equation, both sides of the equation, only by one number. We can only choose one number. And that one number, it needs to be the common denominator. So if we look at our 2 denominator numbers, so 5 and 10, now I don't know how long it's been since you found common denominators, but this is a number that 5 will evenly divide into it and 10 will easily divide into it. It's also called least common multiple. Okay. In this problem, the common denominator, the smallest common denominator, would be a 10. Okay, so here is what I want you to do. We are going to multiply, and to represent multiplying this time, I'm going to put 10 in parentheses. And I know that looks like an exponent, but I'll rewrite it down here. So let's rewrite this whole problem. Now we have 2 parentheses, so 2 times 10 over 5, and then we have our x. And that's all one term right there. And then we have negative 1 parentheses 10 over 10. Now, before you multiply, I want you to pause right there. And before you multiply, I actually want you to simplify the fraction first. So you could multiply here and get 20, but before you do you see right here that the 10 and the 5 can actually reduce? Because that's what we want it to. We want our denominator to reduce to 1, because when we have a denominator of 1, it's like we really don't have a fraction at all. So the 10 and the 5 reduces, so this 10 now turns into a 2. 2 times 2x is 4x. Okay. Over here, we're going to do the same kind of math. The 10 and the 10 simplify right here to 1 and 1. So we're just left with that negative 1. Now, all of a sudden, we have this beautiful equation, completely whole numbers, and the value of our x, it did not change because we were very consistent. We multiplied 10 to both sides, and so it's all the same. We're just going to now divide both sides by 4, and x equals negative 1/4. Now, please don't freak out just because we have a fraction as an answer. That's okay, because remember, we're solving equations with fractions. So if you come up with a fraction for your answer, don't be alarmed. Just make sure you write it in most simplest form. All right, I hope you're ready for one more problem. We're going to work this one together. As you can see, you have 3 fractions going on in this problem, which you can totally solve using the fractions if you want to find common denominators and divide by fractions. The method that I am trying to teach you here in this video is a method where if you multiply each term, each part of the equation by the common denominator, the denominator will simplify to 1, and then you can solve the problem just using whole numbers. So the first thing we need to do, look at our denominators, 2, 4, and 8. We need to find a common denominator. You could also call this a least common multiple. Okay, so we're looking for 2 divides evenly into this number, 4 divides evenly, and 8 does. And there's a couple numbers that you could use. 8 is the smallest, which I like to work with smaller numbers. You could certainly use, 24, you could use 16. We're going to start with 8, and so we're going to follow the same pattern we did with the last problem. I want you to draw parentheses and write that 8 next to each numerator, because this is 8 whole number. This is, so it's going to stay in the numerator only. Okay, and before we actually do this multiplying, before we do 3 times 8, 7 times 8, and so on, I want you to go ahead and get rid of that denominator. I mean, let's just up front get rid of it through simplifying. Now we have the factor of an 8 up here. It simplifies with the 2, leaving a 1 in the denominator. 4, we'll put our 4 right here. Okay, let's go ahead and clean that up. 3 times 4 is 12. Because our denominator has now simplified to a 1, there's no need for it, so we'll just move on. Again, we're going to do the same thing. Instead of multiplying right here to get 56, we're going to first do this little simplifying. Okay, and notice each denominator is changing, it's simplifying to 1. Okay, in this one we have the minus sign, so that stays. And we have 7 times 2 times x, which is 14x. Okay, same thing, except this time both of them simplify to 1. So we are just left with the negative 9. Okay, now we are officially ready to start. And look at this equation. It is easier on the eyes than this first one right here, but because we multiplied each part by the same number, the value of the answer did not change, just the appearance of the problem changed. All right, we're going to solve for x, so we need to move this 12 over. We are going to subtract both sides by 12. 12 take away 12 has zeroed out. Negative 14. And then over here, we're going to do negative 9 minus 12, which is negative 21. Okay, last step is we're going to divide both sides by negative 14. Oop, divide, there's my divide. Okay, negative 14 divide by negative 14, zeros that are reduces to a 1. And right here, we do have a fraction, which again is totally fine, but it's improper. I would take a few points off if you left it in this form. It really needs to be simplified. It looks like 7 can go into both of these, and both of them are negative, and so a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So you need to kind of take care of all of that before you put your final answer. So now we have 21 divided by 7 is 3, and 14 divided by 7 is 2. And again, it's going to stay positive because the negative divided by the negative. So with this problem, x equals 3/2, and that's your final answer. Now I want you to pause the video, get some paper, and try some of these problems on your own.